The giant white ship moved slowly through space. Red crosses painted on its sides showed everyone that it was a hospital ship. The UHMS Mercy's Grace had been helping wounded soldiers and civilians for 3 years. People from many different species trusted this ship. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked through the medical bays. She was the chief doctor. Around her, human nurses worked next to Cathari bird people and even some friendly robots. They were all trying to save lives. The ship had wounded from everywhere, humans with broken bones, Cathari with damaged wings, and even some enemy soldiers who had surrendered. "How is the Drakmor soldier in bed 12? Elena asked Nurse Kim. "His arm is healing well," Kim replied. "He even said thank you yesterday. First time I heard one of them be polite." Elena smiled. The Drakmor were reptile-like beings who thought they were better than everyone else. Their empire was growing bigger by attacking other worlds. But here on the hospital ship, everyone got the same care. In the research lab, Dr. Marcus Chen was studying blood samples. He was quiet and smart. His work helped doctors treat different alien species. Marcus had found ways to make human medicines, work on Cathari bodies. He had also learned how to stop infections that jumped between species. "Marcus, you should eat something," Elena said as she entered his lab. Marcus looked up from his microscope. His eyes were tired. "Just finishing this test. The Drakmor blood is interesting. Their healing is very fast." "Everything about them is fast," Elena said. "Fast to fight, fast to anger, fast to attack." Marcus nodded. He had been studying how Drakmor bodies worked. They were stronger and quicker than most species. But he wondered if that strength came with weaknesses too. The Mercy's Grace was huge. It had 50 medical bays, 10 surgery rooms, and labs for every kind of treatment. 2,000 people worked on the ship. Most were doctors, nurses, and medical researchers. Some were guards, but they only had light weapons. Hospital ships were never supposed to fight. Captain Torres ran the ship. She was an old woman who had been in space for 40 years. She made sure the ship followed all the rules. The Mercy's Grace always announced itself on radio. It never went near battles. It always asked permission before going to new star systems. "We have approval to enter Drakmor space," Captain Torres announced. "There was a big fight near their border. Both sides have wounded." Elena felt worried. The Drakmor Empire had been getting meaner lately. They attacked trade ships. They bombed civilian targets. Some people said they were preparing for a huge war. "Will they let us help their wounded?" Marcus asked. "Hospital ships are protected by galactic law," Torres replied. "Even the Drakmor have to respect that." But Torres looked worried too. The Drakmor had been changing their rules. They said other species were weak and did not deserve to live. Their leader, Emperor Krax, had been giving angry speeches about purifying the galaxy. Admiral Vextar sat in his command ship, watching the human hospital vessel approach. He was a large Drakmor, with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Scars covered his face from many battles. He hated humans most of all. They were soft and weak, but somehow they kept winning fights. "Admiral, the human ship is broadcasting medical codes," his officer said. "I can see that," Vextar growled. His forked tongue flicked out to taste the air. "Humans think they are so noble. They heal our enemies. They make our foes stronger." "Sir, galactic law protects hospital ships. We cannot attack." Vextar's claws scraped against his chair. He had been reading reports about human medical advances. Their treatments were helping allied species fight longer and harder against Drakmor forces. The humans were winning the war with bandages and medicine instead of guns and bombs. "They are not neutral," Vextar decided. "They save our enemies. They study our biology. They are spies and saboteurs." His officers looked uncomfortable. Attacking a hospital ship was considered the worst crime in the galaxy. Even during the bloodiest wars, medical ships were left alone. "Prepare weapons," Vextar ordered. "Sir, please reconsider," his second officer said. Vextar stood up. He was 8 feet tall, and his armor made him look even bigger. "The humans think they are safe because they paint crosses on their ships. Today they learn that mercy is weakness." On the Mercy's Grace, alarms started ringing. Captain Torres ran to the bridge. Her sensors showed 5 Drakmor warships approaching fast. "This is Captain Torres of the hospital ship Mercy's Grace," she broadcast. "We are a protected medical vessel. Please maintain safe distance." The Drakmor ships kept coming. Their weapon systems were charging. "All hands, prepare for emergency." "Evacuation," Torres announced. Her voice stayed calm, but her heart was racing. In 40 years of space travel, no one had ever threatened a hospital ship. Elena ran through the medical bays. "Everyone move to the escape pods," she shouted. "Take the patients who can be moved." Some patients were too sick to move. Elena and her team stayed with them. If they were going to die, at least the wounded would not die alone. Marcus was in his lab trying to save his research data. His work could help millions of people. He uploaded files to emergency transmitters that would broadcast his discoveries to other human ships. The first blast hit the ship's engines. The Mercy's Grace shook and the lights went out. Emergency power came on, but it was dim and red. "They are actually attacking us," Elena whispered. The second blast tore through the main medical bay. Beds with wounded soldiers exploded. Nurses and doctors who had been helping people died instantly. The Cathari patient Elena had been treating that morning was killed by flying metal. Marcus felt the ship breaking apart around him. He grabbed his most important research and ran toward the escape pods. In the hallway, he saw Elena helping a wounded Drakmor soldier toward safety. "Elena, we have to go," Marcus shouted. "I can't leave him," she replied. The third blast came through the wall right next to them. Elena was thrown backward. Blood ran from a cut on her head. The Drakmor soldier she had been trying to save was dead. "Elena!" Marcus reached for her. She looked at him with sad eyes. "Take care of my patients," she whispered. The fourth blast collapsed that section of the ship. Marcus was thrown into an escape pod by the explosion. The pod launched automatically. Through the small window, he watched the Mercy's Grace break into pieces. Floating in space, Marcus saw other escape pods around him, but there were not many. Most of the 2,000 people on the ship were gone. The Drakmor warships circled the wreckage like sharks, making sure no one was left alive on the big pieces. A human patrol fleet arrived 2 hours later. They rescued the survivors and searched for more escape pods. Marcus was one of only 300 people who lived. Elena was not among them. "Why?" asked Captain Torres, who had survived. "Why would they attack a hospital ship?" Marcus stared at the pieces of the Mercy's Grace floating in space. He thought about Elena dying while trying to save a Drakmor soldier. He thought about all the patients who had trusted them to keep them safe. "Because they think mercy is weakness," Marcus said quietly. But looking at the wreckage, Marcus felt something change inside him. He had spent his life learning how to heal people. Now he was thinking about how bodies could be broken instead. 6 months after the attack, Dr. Marcus Chen lived alone on Research Station Omega. The small station floated in empty space, far from any planets or trade routes. Marcus liked it that way. He did not want visitors asking questions about his work. The station was small but had everything Marcus needed. He had a lab with the best equipment human science could make. He had computers that could process millions of calculations every second. Most importantly, he had samples and data from dozens of alien species. Marcus worked 18 hours every day. He barely slept. He forgot to eat until his stomach hurt from hunger. His old friends from the medical community tried to contact him, but he ignored their messages. "Marcus, you need to talk to someone," Dr. Sarah Kim had said in her last message. She had been a nurse on the Mercy's Grace and one of the survivors. "Elena would not want you to live like this." But Marcus did not care what Elena would have wanted. Elena was dead. 2,000 other good people were dead. The Drakmor had killed them for trying to heal the sick. On his desk, Marcus kept a photo of the Mercy's Grace medical staff. Elena stood in the center, smiling. Marcus had burned the faces of the dead crew members into his memory. They would never be forgotten. Now Marcus studied something different than healing. He had obtained samples of Drakmor blood, tissue, and genetic material through military contacts. He was learning how their bodies worked, but unlike his old research, this was not to help them. Marcus discovered that Drakmor biology was very complex. They were stronger and faster than humans because their bodies worked at a higher speed. Their hearts beat faster, their brains processed information quicker, their muscles could contract with more force, but this speed came from tiny bacteria living in their stomachs. These bacteria made a special enzyme that powered their enhanced abilities. Without these bacteria, Drakmor would be weak and slow. Interesting, Marcus said as he looked at bacteria samples under his microscope. Very interesting. He began to study the bacteria more carefully. He learned how they lived and what they needed to survive. He found out what chemicals they made and how those chemicals affected Drakmor bodies. Marcus also studied reports from the war. The Drakmor Empire was winning battles across the galaxy. They had conquered 12 star systems in the past 6 months. Admiral Vextar, the one who had attacked the hospital ship, had been promoted to Supreme Admiral for his brave action. The news made Marcus angry, but it also gave him ideas. The Drakmor thought they were superior because of their biology. They believed their enhanced bodies made them natural rulers of the galaxy. They used their strength to hurt weak people. Marcus began reaching out to old contacts. He called biochemists who had worked with him before. He contacted military researchers who studied alien biology. He even talked to some underground resistance fighters who opposed the Drakmor Empire. I need samples of Drakmor food, Marcus told Dr. Patricia Wong, a biochemist who worked for the human military. Why? Patricia asked. Research, Marcus replied. What kind of research? Marcus paused. He could not tell her the whole truth yet. I am studying their metabolism. I want to understand how they stay so strong during long battles. Patricia looked suspicious, but she agreed to help. She had lost friends. In Drakmor attacks, too. Marcus made similar requests to other scientists. He needed equipment that could analyze genetic material. He wanted data on Drakmor colony worlds and their food production systems. He asked for information about their water supplies and atmospheric processors. Most people thought Marcus was just trying to understand Drakmor biology for medical reasons. Some suspected he was working on ways to help human soldiers fight better against Drakmor warriors. None of them guessed what Marcus was really planning. Late at night, Marcus worked on his secret project. He was not trying to make humans stronger. He was trying to make Drakmor weaker. The bacteria in Drakmor stomachs were the key to everything. Marcus learned how to make chemicals that would disrupt these bacteria. He tested different compounds on bacterial samples. Most did nothing. Some killed the bacteria too quickly, but a few worked exactly as Marcus wanted. Marcus created a substance that would not kill the bacteria right away. Instead, it would make them sick slowly. The bacteria would start making different enzymes. These new enzymes would poison the Drakmor from inside their own bodies. The substance was colorless and had no smell. It could be mixed into food or water without being detected. It would stay inactive for weeks or even months until triggered by a specific radio signal. Marcus tested his creation on tissue samples. The results were exactly what he hoped for. The Drakmor cells began to break down as their enhanced metabolism turned against them. But the process was not quick. They would stay conscious and aware as their bodies failed. Perfect, Marcus whispered. He began making larger amounts of the substance. He packaged it in containers that looked like medical supplies or food additives. He prepared detailed instructions for how to use it. Then Marcus contacted people who could help distribute his creation. Some were human military operatives working behind enemy lines. Others were resistance fighters from species that had been conquered by the Drakmor. A few were traders who sold supplies to Drakmor colonies. Marcus did not tell any of them what they were really carrying. He said it was medical research material, or biological samples for analysis. Everyone trusted Dr. Chen because of his reputation as a healer. The distribution network spread Marcus's substance across Drakmor space. It was mixed into food supplies on cargo ships heading to Drakmor worlds. It was added to water treatment systems on space stations. It was even sprayed into the air systems of Drakmor government buildings. Marcus tracked each delivery on his computer. Red dots showed where his substance had been placed. Soon there were hundreds of red dots scattered across the Drakmor Empire. While Marcus worked, the war continued to go badly for the Allied species. The Drakmor attacked another medical convoy and killed everyone aboard. They bombed a Cathari refugee camp that had no weapons or defenses. Emperor Krax announced plans to cleanse 10 more star systems of inferior species. Human politicians made angry speeches, but they could not agree on military action. Some wanted to follow galactic law and fight only defensive battles. Others wanted full war against the Drakmor Empire. While they argued, more innocent people died. Marcus did not care about politics. He had his own plan. The final piece was a transmission system powerful enough to send signals across the entire Drakmor Empire at once. Marcus contacted Admiral Sarah Chen, his sister, who commanded a human battle fleet. "Marcus, I have not heard from you in months," Sarah said during their video call. "People are worried about you." "I need a favor," Marcus replied. "What kind of favor?" "I need access to the fleet's long-range communication array. I want to send a message across Drakmor space." Sarah frowned. "What kind of message?" "A signal that will activate something I have been working on." "Marcus, what are you planning?" Marcus looked directly at his sister through the video screen. His eyes were cold and focused. "Justice," he said. Marcus worked faster now. His substance was in place across the Drakmor Empire, but he needed to test it properly. The human military had captured several Drakmor soldiers during recent battles. They were being held in a secret prison facility on the moon of Kepler 9. "I want to examine the prisoners," Marcus told General Harrison, the facility commander. "For medical research?" the general asked. "Yes," Marcus lied. "I am studying Drakmor biology to help our soldiers fight them better." General Harrison approved the request. Everyone knew Dr. Chen as a respected medical researcher. His work had saved thousands of human lives before the hospital ship attack. Marcus arrived at the prison facility with cases of medical equipment. He told the guards he needed to take blood samples and run tests on the Drakmor prisoners. The first prisoner was a young Drakmor warrior named Keth. He had been captured after his fighter ship was shot down. His leg was broken, but it was healing quickly thanks to Drakmor biology. "What do you want, human?" Keth hissed. His yellow eyes showed hatred and disgust. "Just some blood samples," Marcus said calmly. "It will not hurt much." Marcus drew blood from Keth and the other prisoners, but he also gave them something. Hidden in his medical supplies was food treated with his special substance. The Drakmor ate it without knowing what they were consuming. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. The prisoners stayed healthy and strong. Marcus checked on them every day, taking more blood samples and recording their vital signs. The guards thought he was just doing normal medical research. On day 15, Keth started feeling sick during breakfast. "Something is wrong," Keth told the guards. "My stomach hurts." Within hours, all the Drakmor prisoners were showing symptoms. They felt weak and dizzy. Their skin color began to change from green to a sickly gray. Their enhanced strength started fading away. Marcus observed everything carefully. He took detailed notes about the progression of symptoms. The substance was working exactly as he had designed it. "What is happening to them?" asked Dr. Martinez, the prison's medical officer. "I am not sure," Marcus replied. "Perhaps some kind of infection." But Marcus knew exactly what was happening. The bacteria in the Drakmor stomachs were being attacked by his substance. As the bacteria became sick, they started making different enzymes. These new enzymes were slowly poisoning the Drakmor from inside. The process took 5 days from start to finish. The prisoners remained conscious the entire time. They could feel their enhanced abilities disappearing. Their fast healing stopped working. Their quick reflexes became slow and clumsy. On the final day, Keth looked at Marcus with understanding in his dying eyes. "You did this," Keth whispered. "You poisoned us." "Yes," Marcus said quietly. "I did." "Why?" Marcus showed Keth a photo of the Mercy's Grace medical staff. "You attacked a hospital ship. You killed people who were trying to heal the wounded." Keth closed his eyes. "We thought you were weak." "We are not weak," Marcus replied. "We are thorough." All the prisoners died within 24 hours. Marcus told the facility commanders that they had succumbed to some kind of unknown disease. He recommended that their bodies be destroyed to prevent contamination. General Harrison was suspicious but had no proof that Marcus had done anything wrong. The test results looked like a natural biological failure, not deliberate poisoning. Marcus returned to his research station with valuable data. He now knew exactly how his substance worked on living Drakmor. He could predict the timeline and symptoms. Most importantly, he knew the proper dosage needed for different body weights and ages. Marcus spent the next month refining his creation. He made it more efficient and harder to detect. He also created a delivery system that could spread the HFY substance through air, water, or food supplies. His network of distributors continued placing the substance throughout Drakmor space. Cargo ships carried it to remote colonies. Traders sold it disguised as preservatives and additives. Resistance, fighters put it into government food supplies and military rations. Marcus created a map showing where his substance had been distributed. Almost every major Drakmor world now had it in their food or water systems. Military bases, government buildings, and civilian population centers were all contaminated. The substance remained inactive, waiting for Marcus to send the activation signal. While Marcus prepared his weapon, the Drakmor Empire continued its expansion. They conquered the Altair system, enslaving 2 billion Cathari. They destroyed the human colony on New Marseille, killing everyone who could not escape in time. Admiral Vextar, now Supreme Admiral of the Drakmor fleet, led many of these attacks personally. He enjoyed destroying human settlements and capturing human prisoners to use as slaves. The humans are cowards, Vextar told his officers during a strategy meeting. They hide behind their laws and treaties. They do not understand that strength is the only truth in the universe. Vextar planned his greatest victory yet. Intelligence reports showed that the human world of New Geneva was poorly defended. The AOE planet had 12 million civilians and only a small defense fleet. Conquering it would show the galaxy that humanity could not protect its own people. Prepare the Grand Fleet, Vextar ordered. We will crush New Geneva and broadcast the battle across human space. Let them see what happens to weak species. The Grand Fleet was the pride of the Drakmor Empire. It had over 200 warships and 1 million soldiers. No human force could stand against it in direct battle. Marcus learned about the planned attack through military intelligence networks. His sister Admiral Sarah Chen was preparing to defend New Geneva with whatever ships she could gather. We cannot win, Sarah told Marcus during their final conversation. They have too many ships. Maybe you do not need to win, Marcus replied. What do you mean? Marcus looked at his activation controls. Red lights showed that his transmission system was ready. Green lights confirmed that his substance was distributed throughout Drakmor space. I mean that strength is not the only truth in the universe, Marcus said. Sometimes knowledge is stronger. Marcus, what have you done? What needed to be done? Marcus cut the connection. He did not want his sister to know what was coming. Some secrets were too heavy to share. The Drakmor Grand Fleet moved toward New Geneva. Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human world grow larger on his screens. Soon he would add another victory to his collection. Marcus watched the fleet approach on his own monitors. When the Drakmor ships reached the outer edge of the New Geneva system, he placed his hand on the activation control. This is for Elena, Marcus whispered. This is for everyone who died on the Mercy's grace. He pressed the button. The signal traveled at light speed across the galaxy. It was a simple radio transmission that looked like background noise to most species. But the substance Marcus had created was programmed to respond to this exact frequency and pattern. On the bridge of his flagship above New Geneva, Supreme Admiral Vexatar was preparing for the final assault. His grand fleet surrounded the human world like a metal storm cloud. 200 Drakmor warships waited for his order to begin the bombardment. Sir, we are receiving some kind of transmission, his communications officer reported. From the humans? Vextar asked. No, sir. The signal is coming from everywhere at once. All our ships are detecting it. Vextar ignored the report. Humans were probably trying some desperate trick with their communications equipment. It would not save them from Drakmor firepower. Begin the attack, Vextar ordered. The first wave of Drakmor ships moved toward New Geneva, their weapons charged with deadly energy. Cities on the planet below prepared for destruction. Then Lieutenant Corex collapsed at his weapons station. What is wrong with him? Vextar demanded. The ship's medical officer examined Corex quickly. His vital signs are dropping rapidly. Heart rate and metabolism are slowing down. Get him to medical bay, Vextar snapped. Continue the attack. But then another officer fell. And another. Within minutes, Drakmor crew members throughout the flagship were collapsing at their stations. The same thing was happening on every ship in the fleet. Admiral, we are receiving distress calls from all vessels, the communications officer said before he too slumped forward. Vextar felt something wrong in his own body. His enhanced strength was fading. His quick reflexes were becoming slow and clumsy. The superior biology that had made Drakmor the masters of war was failing. On Drakmor Prime, the Empire's capital world, Emperor Krax was giving a speech to millions of citizens. He stood on a giant platform in the center of New Drakmor City, his voice carrying across the planet through massive speakers. Today our grand fleet destroys another human world, Krax announced. Soon all weak species will kneel before Drakmor might. The crowd cheered with voices like thunder, but then the cheering began to fade as individuals started collapsing. First a few, then dozens, then thousands of Drakmor fell to their knees, as their enhanced biology turned against them. Krax felt his own strength leaving him. The Emperor who had conquered half the galaxy could barely stand upright. What is happening? He gasped into his microphone. No one could answer. The medical experts, the scientists, the military advisors were all suffering from the same mysterious illness. Across the Empire, on every world and space station, every Drakmor was dying. In the research station that had been his home for months, Marcus watched status reports coming in from across Drakmor space. His substance had activated simultaneously, on hundreds of worlds. The effects were exactly as he had predicted. The enhanced bacteria in Drakmor stomachs were being converted into poison factories. Instead of making enzymes that boosted Drakmor metabolism, they were now producing toxins that shut down vital organ systems. The process could not be stopped or reversed. Marcus had designed the substance carefully. It would not kill other species. Only Drakmor biology was vulnerable, because only they depended on the specific bacteria Marcus had targeted. Reports flooded in from human intelligence networks throughout Drakmor space. On the industrial world of Venom 3, Drakmor factory, workers collapsed at their machines. On the military fortress of Talon Station, elite Drakmor commandos fell helpless in their barracks. Even on remote research outposts, Drakmor scientists died at their laboratory benches. The Drakmor military tried to understand what was happening. Their best doctors worked desperately to find a cure, but they had no experience with biological warfare. Their culture had always relied on direct physical combat. It must be some kind of virus, theorized Dr. Scarex, the Empire's chief medical officer, as he examined dying soldiers in a military hospital. But tests showed no virus, no bacteria, no toxin that their equipment could detect. The Drakmor were simply dying from the inside out, their own enhanced biology becoming their executioner. Above New Geneva, the Drakmor Grand Fleet was in chaos. Ships drifted helplessly as their crews died at their stations. Weapon systems went offline when the operators collapsed. Navigation computers showed error messages as no one was left alive to operate them. Vextar dragged himself to his command chair. His vision was blurring and his breathing was difficult. Around him his bridge crew was dead or dying. Communications, he gasped. Send message to all Drakmor forces. Retreat. Medical emergency. But the communications officer was unconscious. Vextar tried to operate the equipment himself, but his hands were too weak to work the controls properly. A human transmission came through the speakers. It was Admiral Sarah Chen, Marcus's sister, speaking from the bridge of her flagship. Drakmor. Fleet? This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Force. Your crews are experiencing medical difficulties. We are prepared to offer humanitarian assistance. Vextar laughed, but it sounded more like choking. The humans were offering to help their enemies. Even now, when they could have simply watched the Drakmor die, they wanted to heal the wounded. Typical humans, Vextar whispered. Too soft to understand war. But as Vextar felt his life fading away, he began to understand something else. This was not some random disease. The timing was too perfect. The effects were too specific to Drakmor biology. Impossible, he breathed. The weak species could not have done this. Through the view screen, Vextar could see human ships approaching, his fleet. They were not attacking the helpless Drakmor vessels. Instead, they were broadcasting medical assistance offers and preparing to rescue survivors. In his final moments, Vextar realized the truth. The species he had considered weak and inferior had engineered the complete destruction of the Drakmor Empire. They had done it not with warships and weapons, but with knowledge and patience. The humans who built hospital ships had also built the perfect biological weapon. Vextar died with this understanding burning in his mind. Across the Empire, the collapse continued. Drakmor military bases fell silent as their garrisons died. Government buildings emptied as officials succumbed to the biological attack. Even the Imperial Palace on Drakmor Prime became a tomb as the Emperor and his court perished. Marcus monitored it all from his research station. His computers showed the systematic failure of Drakmor civilization. Military communications networks went dark. Planetary defense systems shut down. Trade routes were abandoned as merchant crews died in their ships. The Drakmor Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for decades, was ending not with glorious battle but with quiet death in empty corridors. Marcus felt no joy in his success. This was not victory, it was necessary surgery. The Drakmor had proven they could not coexist peacefully with other species. They had chosen to be a cancer in the galaxy. Marcus had removed that cancer. His computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from his sister, Admiral Sarah. "Marcus," Sarah's recorded voice said, "I know this was you. I do not know how you did it, but I know you are responsible for what happened to the Drakmor. Please contact me, we need to talk." Marcus deleted the message without responding. There would be time for explanations later. Right now, he needed to monitor the final stages of the Empire's collapse. The Drakmor had attacked a hospital ship because they thought mercy was weakness. Now they were learning that mercy had limits, and crossing those limits had consequences that their warrior minds could never have imagined. 3 days later, the Drakmor Empire was gone. What had taken centuries to build collapsed in 72 hours. Hundreds of worlds that had been ruled by Drakmor's strength now stood empty and silent. Space stations drifted without power or crew. Military fleets floated like ghost ships in the darkness between stars. The few Drakmor who survived were scattered across remote outposts and isolated colonies. Maybe 1 million individuals out of a population that had once numbered in the billions. They were the ones who had been away from the main distribution networks when Marcus activated his weapon. Deep space explorers, hermit researchers, exiled criminals living on forgotten worlds. Marcus sat in his research station, reading reports from across the galaxy. The other species were struggling to understand what had happened. Some thought it was a natural plague. Others suspected alien involvement. A few guessed that humans were responsible, but they had no proof. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered on the neutral world of Harmony Station. They needed to decide what to do with the empty Drakmor territories and the few survivors. Marcus received an official summons to appear before the council. His reputation as a medical expert meant they wanted his opinion on the plague that had destroyed the Drakmor. Marcus took a transport ship to Harmony Station. It was the first time he had left his research station in 8 months. The galaxy looked different to him now, quieter, more peaceful. The council chambers were huge and filled with beings from every corner of known space. Kathari sat next to, crystalline Vortians. Multi-armed hexapods shared tables with gaseous nebula dwellers. At the center sat High Counselor Zara, an ancient being whose species had founded the galactic community thousands of years ago. Dr. Chen, High Counselor Zara said as Marcus approached the witness stand. Thank you for coming. We need your expertise to understand the biological catastrophe that befell the Drakmor Empire. Marcus looked around the chamber. Representatives watched him with curious eyes. Some showed sympathy for his losses on the hospital ship. Others seemed suspicious of his presence. What would you like to know? Marcus asked. In your professional opinion, what caused the simultaneous biological failure across the Drakmor population? Marcus had prepared for this question. He could lie and claim ignorance. He could blame natural causes or unknown viruses, but as he stood before the gathered species of the galaxy, Marcus decided to tell the truth. I caused it, Marcus said simply. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Some representatives stood up in surprise, others called for security. High Counselor Zara banged her staff for order. Please explain, Zara said when the noise died down. Marcus activated a holographic display. It showed the molecular structure of his biological weapon and explained how it targeted the specific bacteria in Drakmor digestive systems. The Drakmor enhanced metabolism depended on symbiotic bacteria, Marcus explained. I created a substance that converted these bacteria into toxin producers. When activated by a specific radio signal, the bacteria began poisoning their hosts from within. You committed genocide, accused Ambassador K-Tex from the Rigel Union. Yes, Marcus admitted. I did. Why? Asked High Counselor Zara. Marcus showed the chamber video records from the attack on the Mercy's Grace. The representatives watched in horror as Drakmor warships destroyed the hospital ship and killed wounded patients and medical staff. They attacked a protected medical vessel, Marcus said. They murdered people whose only crime was trying to heal the sick. They violated the most sacred laws of civilized behavior. That does not justify extinction, protested Ambassador Vril. From Andromeda, doesn't it? Marcus asked. The Drakmor Empire enslaved entire species. They bombed civilian targets. They conquered worlds and killed billions. They showed no mercy to anyone they considered inferior. Marcus paused and looked directly at each representative. They made their choice when they decided other species did not deserve to live. I simply honored that choice. The chamber was silent. Some representatives looked disturbed by Marcus's calm explanation. Others nodded in understanding. The galaxy had suffered under Drakmor aggression for decades. What about the survivors? Asked Ambassador Chen, a distant human relative. They will be cared for, Marcus replied. Their enhanced biology has been permanently altered. They can only survive with medical support. They are no longer a threat to anyone. High Counselor Zara studied Marcus for a long moment. Dr. Chen, you have confessed to the most massive act of biological warfare in galactic history. The Council must decide your fate. I understand, Marcus said. The deliberations took 2 days. Species representatives debated the ethics of Marcus's actions. Some called for his execution. Others argued that he had stopped a genocidal empire and saved countless lives. A few suggested that the Drakmor had brought their fate upon themselves. In the end, the Council reached a compromise. Marcus would not be punished, but he would be closely monitored. His research would be supervised. He could continue working in medical fields, but never again on biological weapons. Marcus accepted the terms. He had never planned to make another weapon anyway. His work was finished. Marcus returned to human space and established the Vasquez Institute for Galactic Medicine. He named it after Dr. Elena Vasquez, the colleague he had lost on the Mercy's Grace. The institute became the premier center for interspecies medical research. The institute's motto was carved into the lobby wall: to heal when possible, to protect always, to remember forever. Marcus spent his remaining years developing treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. His work saved millions of lives. He trained new doctors and researchers from dozens of worlds. He helped create medical protocols that prevented, future biological disasters. But Marcus never spoke publicly about what he had done to the Drakmor Empire. When asked about it in interviews, he would only say that sometimes healers must choose between saving some lives and saving many lives. The surviving Drakmor were settled on a garden world called New Haven. Human doctors and Cathari nurses cared for them. The former conquerors learned to grow food and build homes instead of weapons and warships. Their children grew up weak but peaceful. Some of these Drakmor children became doctors themselves. They studied at the Vasquez Institute and learned to heal instead of hurt. They honored the memory of Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had died trying to save a Drakmor soldier. The galaxy changed after the fall of the Drakmor Empire. Other aggressive species looked at the empty Drakmor worlds and reconsidered their own expansion plans. The message was clear. There were limits to what civilized species would tolerate. Humanity's reputation changed too. They were no longer seen as just compassionate healers. Other species now understood that humans possessed both extraordinary mercy and devastating capability for retribution. Hospital ships still flew with red crosses painted on their sides, but everyone in the galaxy knew what happened to those who attacked them. 10 years after the Empire's fall, Marcus visited the Memorial to the Mercy's Grace. The monument listed the names of all 2,000 people who had died in the attack. Elena Vasquez's name was at the top, followed by doctors, nurses, patients, and crew members from a dozen species. Marcus placed a white flower at the base of Elena's name. "I kept my promise," he whispered to the stone. "I took care of your patients." New hospital ship flew overhead as Marcus stood at the memorial. The UHMS Elena Vasquez was the largest medical vessel ever built. It carried the same mission as the Mercy's Grace, to heal the wounded and care for the sick, regardless of species or politics. But unlike its predecessor, the Elena Vasquez was not defenseless. Hidden within its medical bays were weapons systems that could destroy entire fleets. The ship's motto, printed on every door and wall, served as both promise and warning. "We heal all who suffer, and we remember all who died." Marcus watched the hospital ship disappear into hyperspace, probably heading to some distant war where wounded soldiers needed care. He hoped the ship would never need to use its hidden weapons. But if it did, Marcus knew the galaxy would understand why. The species that builds hospital ships also remembers those who destroy them. Walking away from the memorial, Marcus felt something he had not experienced in 10 years. Peace. Elena and the others had not died in vain. The galaxy was safer now. Future hospital ships would be protected by the knowledge of what happened when mercy was met with cruelty. Marcus had started his career trying to heal people. In the end, he had healed the galaxy itself by removing a cancer that threatened all life. Sometimes the most compassionate act was also the most terrible. The empire that had attacked a hospital ship was gone, burned away by the quiet genius of a man who understood that true strength came not from enhanced biology or superior weapons, but from knowledge, patience, and the willingness to act when others would not. The Drakmor had learned too late that mercy was not weakness. It was a choice that could be withdrawn.